Everyone, Jeremiah here. I've had a lot of requests for a Highland greenhouse tour. I was just looking, it's been over 2 years since my last walkthrough, so I'm gonna do a pretty much unedited walk through the greenhouse. It looked like requests were for at least a half an hour, so we'll see if I'll have a part 1, part 2, part 3, depending on how many mistakes I make as I go. This one here is one of my favorite plants in the greenhouse right now. It's truncata crossed with a Fipiata. By far my biggest female clone. Just had some nice germination on a mullis that I crossed with this one, and that one should be spectacular. Okay, well, we'll turn the other direction and start the tour. See you in a second. We're back. I've always started the greenhouse tours just as you walk into the greenhouse, but today I decided to start it just to the right as the Highland Nepenthes start. So, up first we have this Nepenthes veitchii Jeff Wong. This one is one of the most spectacular veitchiis out there. This peristome, it has a wonderful striped color, and then will slowly fade to this coppery gold as it ages. Then right next to it, we have a veitchii M. This one actually was originally from Exotica Plants. Beautifully squat clone, no striping, but this one, I don't even feel like it needs it. Then as we walk a little bit further, we see the biggest plant in my greenhouse. This one is my large Nepenthes truncata crossed with a Fipiata. I don't know, we might try and count how many pitchers on it are about a foot tall, but that might take a while. So we got this one here, there's one. This one's maybe just under, but we'll call it 2. This one's just starting to fade, but it's still there, 3. This one hasn't opened yet, but it's still about a foot tall, 4. Then we have this one back here, makes it 5. Then we'll go up and around. We have a couple here. This one I don't think will count, it's too small, but we'll call that one 6. Then we'll go 7 here. Then one of the biggest pitchers on it right now, so we'll call that 8. Just behind it, we have another one, so we'll call it 9. And then behind it, a third, so that makes 10. Then we'll travel up, use this hook to support this really tall one, because as you can imagine, as it fills with liquid, it will get awfully heavy. This one we'll say is 11. Then we'll go back here, and we have 12. Okay, and then all the way under here, you can just see there is number 13. Let's go up and see what else we've got. This one is a little over halfway faded. We'll call it 14, but that one's a little iffy. And then let's go up. Okay, right now it's about just over 6 feet tall. And there, I believe, is the final 14th pitcher that is around a foot tall on one plant. So that is just incredible. So right now I'm actually up in the rafters. I'm standing on top of this bench. So as you can see, we have quite a few plants up here. They get tons of sunlight, maybe a little bit too much, but they still look pretty darn good. This is a St. Bryce. It's a Masteriana cross that Sam Estes in Hawaii did a while back. And then as we'll go, I'm kind of being attacked by Nepenthes right here. We'll turn around this way. A couple other things. Here's the nice H.R. Geiger. This one is a veitchii Stena spectabilis crossed with Loei hybrid. Then a Burbigia crossed with veitchii. Then we'll come down over here. And here is Freder, which is a really nice 10-tack hybrid that Sam in Hawaii also made. I believe it's Splendiana as the mother plant. but you don't see all that many ten-tack hybrids in cultivation. It seems to have to get huge before they actually flower. Same thing in the wild. Very rarely do you see them in flower compared to how many plants you see. Okay, here's some lower pictures on the HR Geiger plant. And we'll take a step back so we can get the full view of the Lowii truncata right now. There's the St. Bryce as well up in the rafters. Come around this way. Then this one is a hybrid between Lowii and Morelliana. This one will be a really nice size pitcher once it opens up. The one behind it was produced this winter, so it's not all that big. And then I get some really nice uppers on those just right here. So a couple of those are just opening up. That is a spectacular cross. And then we have this Aimee crossed with Jacquelinia izumie. This one, Joel Stern of Nepenthes Around the House fame, crossed this one a while back. I have at least 3 clones. I would say 2 of them are absolutely spectacular, with this one being my favorite. And come on around. We have a tray of Nepenthes seedlings here, so they will be divided out relatively soon. Here were some that I just recently repotted. This is a Bashiana crossed with Veitchii striped peristome. And as we come around, a couple Aristo Maxima hybrids. And then we have this spectacular Lowii truncata wide peristome. This is a relatively new arrival. This plant is the same as the huge one that California Carnivorous has growing in their Highland greenhouse, if anyone's been to see that. This is actually its probably largest pitcher right now. As you can see, again, well over a foot tall, but I'm looking forward to its first pitcher. It'll produce under my care. Then here is one of the original Lowii truncata grexes. This one, I don't know, it's probably not my favorite of the grex, but it's still beautiful. So hard to go wrong with that plant. And as we come up this way, here's my second favorite clone of that same Jacquelinia izumie Aimee cross. Then just behind it, we have a Gilbrata crossed with Talingensis, I believe. Or I believe it's the reverse actually, but super cute little pitchers, and usually has a lot of them at once. Although this one seems to produce most of its pitchers with kind of a funky looking lid for me. And normally I would say it's the conditions, but I don't know, it's done that for a little while now. I see 2 or 3 with proper lids, but most of them are a little small. As we go up and around this way, we have a beautiful plant from EP. This is Thorellii crossed with Trusmatiensis. Probably the oldest plant I have from EP. I actually received it in 2006. So I've had it a little while, and it's just stunning. Here looks like actually the nicest picture on it, but it is kind of hard to see and hard to get to. But as you can see, great color and a lot of size. Then we move onward. We got Summatrana crossed with Bashiana, I believe, and these are just some massive pitchers as well. This one gets pitchers well over a foot tall, and they're awfully stout. Okay, then we'll continue on around this side. We have some little Couplandii. This is one of my little Jacquelinia crossed with truncatas. This is by far my greenest clone, but sometimes I like a nice green pitcher. There's nothing wrong with that. And then back behind it, we have this truncata crossed with Spectabilis, which has a beautiful skinny pitcher with a striped peristome. And then we'll come this way, and then we actually have the reverse. So this one is Spectabilis crossed with Truncata. And beautiful plant, but I definitely like the other one with its striped peristome quite a bit better. Come on back around. Little spathulata crossed with Rob Cantley. Pretty much anything that you cross with Rob Cantley seems to turn out amazing. Go on over here. Then I've just repotted almost my entire Helianthera collection, so they will not look their best on this video today. So honestly, the greenhouses, I would say, look their all-time best usually in September and October. So depending on the time I have, I might come back and do a September or October walkthrough. Now, I know this caught your eye. This is another one of the original Grexes of Lowii truncata. This is definitely one of my personal favorite, and bought this one from Tony Parobek way back in the day as just a tiny, tiny plant. I've ended up killing the main growing point once or twice, but it always seems to come back, and hopefully now I'll get some absolutely massive pictures on it. And we'll continue on here. Just some various things, seedlings that maybe aren't looking their greatest, but I have them in this corner and we'll see how they look in a few months. And this is a Lowii truncata red. So let's see, I can never have too many Lowii truncatas. I will just probably need a whole nother greenhouse to house them once they reach maturity. And then this is a new arrival. This is Lowii truncata giant. So if you've seen photos in Exotica's greenhouse or saw some of my Instagram posts, this is one of the biggest Nepenthes in cultivation, and it is absolutely stunning. Was so excited I got a cutting from it, and it has settled in and picturing for me. And then we have truncata red crossed with Trusmadiensis. Another really nice one. Spathulata crossed with Diatus. That's kind of an interesting hybrid. You don't see all that often. And we'll come on up and around. Okay, Hamada is always really nice. Then let's see, right here we have a relatively newly arrived Raja. Truthfully, it's not looking all that happy, and it looked like it had some sort of pests when it first arrived. So it's kind of off on its own. I've been able to spray it a couple times to make sure they don't spread through the greenhouse. So hopefully this next leaf that develops will look proper. But as you can see, these pictures are really stunning. Then we'll go onward into this freezer grow chamber. Now actually I don't have this freezer turned on. It's just right in front of the swamp coolers, and it stays a little bit cooler. So that's why these Velosa seem to just love it in here. And we'll go on down, do a little bit of a close-up. Velosa growing in nice green sphagnum moss is one of the greatest things ever. And then just behind it, I have a little Raja. This is actually a Raja that I created horticultural seed from. It's probably been a few years now. And this is, I think, my biggest or second biggest from that batch. One thing I've definitely noticed that Raja appreciates a little more feeding than I would say almost any other Nepenthes I know of. So every time a new pitcher opens, I'll try and throw a few insects or something like that into it. And that has helped this immensely. And just look at that Velosa from this side. Just stunning. Okay, and then we'll move onward. I'm not moving at a breakneck pace because all you guys said that you would much rather have a longer video and you can just kind of watch what you want. So here's my second favorite clone of Porceliana, another spectacular hybrid created by Sam in Hawaii. One of my clones gets extremely white pictures, and I think it's one of the most spectacular Nepenthes there is. This one has a little more pink to it, but is still really, really nice. Okay, and then we have a Ventricosa crossed with Trusmadiensis. This one is a sibling of the famed dark cherry. And as you can see, these get extremely dark for me. especially as they're open and the picture just starts to fade. Hasn't really turned brown yet, but it's pretty much black around the edges. And then we'll move up this way. Repotted my entire Darlingtonia collection this year as well, so they're just making a comeback. I think the best one is just under this bench, so we'll take a look down there. The hybrid between a Fipiata and Ventricosa. 3 just perfect pictures on it right now. We'll move onward. Ooh, this will be a nice hybrid, that's for sure. Okay, let's keep on. Go a little more this way. So we'll head down here and I'll show you underneath the benches. Here's probably my nicest looking Darlingtonia right now. Again, it was just repotted, so it'll look really nice this fall once it kind of reestablishes in this 18-inch pot, I believe. And then all of these small Helianthera, as you can see, they've just been repotted, divided, cleaned up. So they take about a month and a half for me before they look kind of back to their normal self, but they don't look too bad right now. I just have these under T5 lights, and they run for 16 hours a day. And you can see that other bench right behind them, and I can give a tour of that here later as well. Okay, come on up and go this way. So this is a really nice hybrid. This is a VGI crossed with Ime, and when it first opens, it has one of the most stunning peristome of any Nepenthes I grow. This one just kind of cleaned up, moved around, cut it up a little bit, so I should get some huge pictures on it once it settles back in. Right now, they're probably a solid 8 to 9 inches. Then we have my largest male truncata crossed with a Fipiata. This one for me has much darker reds, but it doesn't get near as large. That's what I always thought, but guess what? This picture is looking pretty stout. So maybe it was just kind of maturing. This one already is a little more stout and probably just under a foot tall, but getting very close. And as you can see, it just split open last night. So still will grow a little bit before it's what I would consider at its full size. Okay, then this is the far southeast side of the greenhouse. So these get really nice morning sun. Again, these have just been repotted within the last month, so nothing looks outstanding, but they don't look too bad either. A couple different clones of Saracenoides, this beautiful Ionacea, Folliculata, and we have Nebliana Red, a couple Tadii. This one's actually pretty good size, well over a foot tall. And these are right in front of my 2 swamp coolers. So I keep both my swamp coolers on stages. The first one on the north side of the greenhouse turns on at around 75 degrees. And then this one jumps on at about 78. So very rarely will it get above 80 degrees right in front of these Helianthera. And then just last year I hooked up a couple extra hydrofoggers. And so anytime the swamp cooler is on, it brings in even a little bit more humidity, because a hot day in Colorado, it'll probably be between 7 and 14% humidity outside. So all the extra humidity I can get is definitely welcome. Then we'll go in, here's another freezer. This one I did have seedlings in, but as you can see, they have actually grown. This is a Raja crossed with Mira, a hybrid I made a while back. Then we have a beautiful Mullis. This is the same Mullis, a nice male clone that I crossed with the Truncata Fipiata. So its lower pictures are absolutely stunning, and its upper pictures aren't too bad either. And it's a good, probably just under 3 feet tall. And then we have Maxima Papua Red in there. And a really nice, let me see, a Naga as well. So, without turning you guys upside down, I'll show you that. This one is just starting to produce its little snake tongue, but not too big yet. Then we have one of the few, well, probably the only enormous crossed with Velosa that you'll ever see. Actually, I believe Velosa was the female parent, and it is just an interesting plant. You go one of the most intense peristomes with the only Nepenthes that doesn't have a peristome. So then we have a couple red hairy hamadas here. This one, it doesn't look like it has any pictures here, but everything for me grows quite a bit better during the summer. So a lot of these have just started to picture, just started to take off and go from there. So here's a pretty good Darlingtonia as well, I guess. This is a spectacular clone, originally from Atlanta Botanic Gardens and the Six Rivers Trail, I believe it is. And this is my first stage swamp cooler. So this one will turn on first thing in the morning. During the summer, I would say it runs most of the day. As soon as it gets cloudy though, it'll shut off automatically if it drops below 75 degrees. And then at night, I've actually still been having to close the greenhouse, I think all but 2 nights this year, because it's just getting too cold at night still dropping into the low 50s. So over here we have some Utricularia. Most of these are kind of divisions that I propagate. These are about ready for trade or sale. This is an amazing cross, probably my favorite, made by Travis Wyman. This is Humboldtii crossed with Alpina. You get these just massive flowers that will last a couple weeks, and sometimes I'll get, 6 or 7 flower stalks on one plant. Here's a really cool one. This is a Hamada crossed with Densiflora. So I did a pretty good job. I moved this one recently and completely smashed this pitcher, but anyone who has Nepenthes knows that that happens time to time. And as you can see, it still has a few really nice pictures on it, but obviously the one I smashed was by far the best. So as we'll follow it up here, we actually have a few upper pictures from the same cross, then also mixed with Mikey and Undulatifolia. So kind of a nice little mesh up here of 3 of my favorites, and then you get a little bit higher and you get my favorite male clone of Jacquelinia. So this one's way up there. I have it kind of draped over these wirings here to keep it high and up, and oh boy, there's an Edwardsiana. So this is one of my all-time favorite plants. I never can decide which I like more, Edwardsiana or Velosa, but either one is perfect, and obviously Raja is the best Nepenthes of all, but these are either second or third. So this Edwardsiana flowered for me just recently and has just gone to pitcher production again. As you can see, here's another nice pitcher developing, and it is probably, I'm gonna say 4 feet tall, just about. And that is just such a cool looking plant. We'll come on down here. Here are some lower pictures on that same Jacquelinia. The upper pictures are almost pure green, where the lower pictures are just a spectacular maroon to red. Definitely my favorite clone of Jacquelinia I've ever grown, and it is just stunning. This is another Hireliana. This is also a male clone. Flowered for me recently, and I lost the main growing point, but it's coming back from the base and should be happy. Another pretty good size Hireliana here. Definitely a spectacular plant. Undulatifolia. And excuse me. And then Hamada crossed with Hamada Red Harry. This one was originally created by Simon in the UK. Looks like we have a dead fly here. We'll put it in this Singulana pitcher. And here is the Singulana pitcher. So this is spectacular. The color, the size, the shape, and pretty good teeth for a Singulana, if I do say so myself. And it's actually in flower right now, so it is a female. So hopefully I'll find something good to cross it with. Then we have a Trusmatiensis. Man, that is one of the greatest Nepenthes there is. Of course, it is a natural hybrid between Lowii and Macrophylla. And then just behind it, we have a pretty good sized Lowii. These will sometimes produce these like indented pitchers for me. Still not entirely sure why it does that, but it is beautiful nonetheless. Here's a new one just opening, and maybe, just maybe, that will have the nice wide open mouth on it. There's some other pitchers, some older ones. These pitchers last so long because they are almost like plastic. They're super sturdy. Come over here, and as we continue around the Highland bench, we have a little Lowii crossed with Lowii truncata. This has been one of my slowest growing plants, but it looks like I'm finally getting a little bit of a leaf jump. Maybe we'll have some good pictures on it soon. Glandulifera from Exotica. A couple seedlings here. Ooh, then we have another really nice Edwardsiana pitcher just about to open up. There's another cool one behind it. Then we have this Hamada. This is Appendiculata hiding right there. It produces this really weird appendage on the tip of the lid. Continue around. I'm just squeezing by my freezers now, so give me a second. Okay, stand back and kind of give this bench an overview. This is one of my largest Nepenthes villosas right here. And as you can see, this picture on it is just spectacular. Usually I'll get like 1 or 2 open pictures at a time on each plant. As this one fades, we have this nice one that's still looking in its prime. And then we have a nice Aristoloides behind it. We're not going to reshoot that because the name of that plant is just outrageous to say. This is Tentac. This is actually, I believe, the Hose Mountains clone, one of my favorites. Another little Aristo. We'll come on around. Ooh, look at this one. This one is another Jacquelinia. This clone has been so much slower growing for me. I got them both, I think, the same week, and this is going to be the first upper pitcher I have ever had on this plant, if it will get into focus. If not, we will just kind of move on. Then we have one of my all-time favorites. This is the Macrophylla I got from Westuba in about 2006. This one, there's a very good chance it was back crossed with Lowii somewhere along the way, but in the wild, almost every single Macrophylla looks a little bit different. This one, I feel like it falls more or less in the range. This is a pretty good, like, intermediate to upper pitcher. Not huge compared to what you see in the wild, but compared to what I'm used to, it's not half bad. Then we have the hybrid between Raja and Burbigia. This is a pretty good size one here. Man, it is just off there. We'll see if we can get a better shot of it without stuff in the way. That's not happening, but as you can see, it's a cool plant. Then we'll come on around. This right here is by far my favorite plant in the world. This is Nepenthes Raja. This one, I actually don't have any pictures on it right now. I think I overfed 2 of them that it had produced, and then those faded a little bit faster than it normally would. But it looks like we will have some pictures here, so hopefully with that September visit, I'll have some good sized pictures on this. This one has actually started to vine for me, I think 3, maybe 4 times, and has flowered quite a bit, but then each time it basically will get to the top of this greenhouse, and then the main vine will die and it grows back from the basal. Every time I'm a little concerned because this basal was probably less than 5 inches across last winter, but it has really put on some size awfully quick, and it is spectacular. Here's a really nice Enormous. I think I overfed these 2 pictures here, but it is still a spectacular looking plant. Little Sanguinea right there. Oh, and probably since my last video, I've put in these LED lights. They're GE waterproof, I think IP68, so they can just kind of sit here and be in the misting system. I run them for an hour or two in the morning and a couple hours in the evening, and especially on the north side of the greenhouse, I feel like they've helped so much. Right now, this is probably my favorite little part of the greenhouse because in one shot, I see Raja, I see Edwardsiana, I see Velosa, I see Undulatifolia, and Hamada, along with a small Loei crossed with Ephipiata. It just doesn't get too much better than that. This Edwardsiana is just absolutely stunning. I love that orange-yellow color. We're probably at about 8 inches, solid 6 inches, we'll call it. And this is actually a newly rooted cutting, so it's the first pitcher it's ever produced under my care. But we will have another pitcher here developing, and so hopefully this one will be even bigger. Then we'll go down Undulatifolia here, and it is just spectacular. Quite a few open pitchers, all kind of ping pong ball shape. And just look at this Velosa. Oh my goodness. That never gets old. I just love it. This one just opened about a week ago. As you can see, this other one back there is just starting to fade, but is noticeably smaller. And we also have an even older one. I'll try and get up under there, which is about halfway gone. And then the plant itself, whew, looks like that. And we will continue around. We have this Burbigia hybrid that is probably Burbigia crossed with Velosa. Was originally sold as Burbigia Edwardsiana. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure either way. I just know it is a beautiful plant. Okay, then we have this, Bongso crossed with Hamada. Maybe the darkest plant in my greenhouse right now. It is just extremely dark. That flared peristome with the teeth, man, this one came from Drew at Carnivorous. I've had it a little while now and just love it. Then we have this Adrianii crossed with Burbigia, a relatively new arrival from Exotica and Dom Gravine. This one was humongous in Exotica's greenhouse, so it was one of my most wanted plants for a little while. And this is my biggest Nepenthes appendiculata. This one has been open for a few weeks now. And as you can see, the appendage right there is how it got its name. Okay, we'll continue moving our way around. Wow, we are at over half an hour already, so thanks for everyone who is still with me. I'll probably split this into two, so I think here might be a good spot for me to take a breath, grab a drink of water, and then we will continue on. We will end here with this spectacular Muluensis from Malaysiana Tropicals. The darkest full plant I grow because its leaves are purple black, and it is such a cool one. Okay, we'll see you in a few.